The crack of a gunshot echoed through the arid canyon, sending a flock of startled birds into the crimson sky as Zara Rowe clutched her bleeding shoulder and stumbled behind a large boulder, her heart hammering against her ribs. Wyoming Territory, 1876, was unforgiving to those who made enemies of men like Victor Blackwood, and she had done just that by escaping his clutches 3 days ago. "I know you're out there, darlin'," Blackwood's voice boomed across the rocky terrain. "Ain't nowhere to run now." Zara pressed her back against the cool stone, her breathing ragged, her once fine dress torn and stained with dust and blood. The wound wasn't deep, but it stung fiercely, and she knew she couldn't outrun them much longer. 3 men on horseback against 1 woman on foot, the odds weren't in her favor. "Find her," Blackwood ordered his men. "I want her alive." The sound of hooves against loose stone grew louder. Zara glanced around desperately, searching for an escape route. There was a narrow path winding up the canyon wall, but she'd be exposed the entire way. Still, it was her only chance. Just as she prepared to make a run for it, another shot rang out, followed by a man's surprised yell. Then another shot and another. Confused, Zara peered cautiously around the edge of the boulder. A lone rider had appeared on the ridge above, his rifle aimed with deadly precision. One of Blackwood's men was already on the ground while another clutched his arm, blood seeping between his fingers. Blackwood himself was retreating, firing wildly at the stranger. "This ain't your business, cowboy," Blackwood shouted. The stranger didn't respond, just worked the lever of his Winchester and fired again. His bullet struck close enough to Blackwood's horse that the animal reared in panic, nearly unseating its rider. "We'll be back," Blackwood snarled, wheeling his horse around. He and his remaining conscious henchmen grabbed their wounded companion and fled, dust billowing behind them. Zara remained frozen behind the boulder, uncertain whether her rescuer was truly a savior or just another danger. The stranger dismounted and led his horse down the rocky slope with practiced ease. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his face partially obscured by the brim of his hat. "You can come out now, madam," he called, his voice deep but gentle. "They're gone." Zara didn't move. "How do I know you're not one of them? If I was, I wouldn't have just shot at them," he replied reasonably. "You're hurt. Let me help you." Warily, Zara stepped out from behind the boulder, wincing as the movement sent fresh pain through her wounded shoulder. Now she could see him clearly, a man perhaps 30 years old, with sun-bronzed skin and watchful eyes the color of a summer sky. His clothes were trail-worn but clean, and he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to handling trouble. "Name's Adam Ashworth," he said, touching the brim of his hat. "Most folks call me Ash." "Zara," she replied, deliberately omitting her surname. "Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Ashworth, but I'll be fine on my own now." He glanced pointedly at her bleeding shoulder. "Doesn't look fine to me. That needs tending. I can manage." Zara took a step back, instantly regretting it as dizziness swept over her. She swayed dangerously. In 2 quick strides, Adam was beside her, his strong hands steadying her by the elbows. "Easy there." The proximity made Zara flinch. She'd had enough of men's hands on her to last a lifetime. "Don't touch me," she whispered. Adam immediately released her, raising his palms in a gesture of peace. "I apologize, madam. No harm intended." Zara felt herself flush with embarrassment. This man had just saved her life, and she was treating him like an enemy. "No, I'm sorry. I'm not at my best." "Understandable." He nodded toward his horse, a handsome chestnut gelding. "My camp's not far. I've got supplies there to treat that wound properly. After that, you're free to go wherever you please." Zara hesitated, weighing her limited options. Night was falling, and she was injured, exhausted, and miles from any town. Pride wouldn't keep her alive out here. "Very well," she conceded. "Thank you." Adam helped her onto his horse, then led the animal on foot toward his campsite, nestled in a small grove of cottonwoods near a narrow stream. It was a simple but orderly camp, a small fire pit, a bedroll, and saddlebags containing provisions. "It's not much," Adam said as he helped her dismount, "but it's safe." It's perfect, Zara replied honestly. After days of running, even this humble campsite seemed like luxury. Adam set about tending to her wound with gentle efficiency. He cleaned it with whiskey which stung terribly, then bandaged it with strips of clean cloth from his saddlebag. You've done this before, Zara observed, noticing his practiced movements. Served as a field medic during the war, he explained. Picked up a few skills. Which side? She asked cautiously. Union, he answered. Though out here it hardly matters anymore. As he worked, Zara studied him surreptitiously. His hands were calloused but gentle, his movements precise. A small scar ran along his jawline, disappearing into several days' worth of stubble. His eyes, though they were kind eyes, the sort that seemed to see more than they revealed. What brings a lady like you out here alone? Adam asked as he tied off the bandage. Zara stiffened. What makes you think I'm a lady? He gave her a knowing look. Your speech, the way you carry yourself. Those boots might be dusty, but they were expensive once. Zara looked away. Perhaps I was once. It doesn't matter now. Adam didn't press further. Instead, he built up the fire and prepared a simple meal of beans, jerky, and coffee. They ate in companionable silence as darkness settled fully around them, bringing with it the myriad sounds of the night desert. Those men, Adam said finally. They'll be back, Zara nodded reluctantly. Victor Blackwood doesn't give up easily. And what does he want with you? She met his gaze steadily. To own me. Understanding dawned in Adam's eyes. You ran from him. 3 days ago, I was working at his saloon in Silveridge. She spoke the word working with enough emphasis that Adam clearly understood what kind of work Blackwood had forced upon her. I took money from his safe, enough to start over somewhere far from here. Adam's expression remained neutral. That money's why he's hunting you, partly, Zara admitted, but mostly it's because no one leaves Victor Blackwood unless he allows it, especially not the women. How much did you take? $200. It had seemed like a fortune when she'd grabbed it, though now she wasn't sure it was worth the danger. Adam sipped his coffee thoughtfully. Where were you headed? San Francisco, Zara replied. I heard there are opportunities there for women who want respectable work. It's a long way to California, Adam observed, especially alone. I've managed this far. Adam nodded, respect evident in his eyes. That you have. As the fire burned lower, Adam insisted Zara take his bedroll while he kept watch. Too exhausted to argue, she accepted gratefully, though sleep proved elusive despite her fatigue. Every snap of a twig, every whisper of wind sounded like approaching danger. Eventually, she gave up and sat up, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders. Adam sat on a fallen log nearby, his rifle across his knees, his gaze scanning the darkness. You should rest, he said without looking at her. I can't. Zara moved to sit beside him, maintaining a careful distance. My mind won't quiet. That happens after trouble, it'll pass. They sat in silence for a while, the stars wheeling overhead in their ancient patterns. Why did you help me? Zara asked suddenly. You could have ridden on. It wasn't your fight. Adam considered this. Some fights become yours whether you choose them or not. He paused. I've seen enough of men like Blackwood, men who think people are property. There was something in his tone, a personal note that made Zara curious. You've crossed paths with such men before, you could say that. His hand unconsciously touched the scar on his jaw. After the war, I rode with a man named Captain James Hollister. He was hunting down raiders who'd taken his sister when we found them. He shook his head. Let's just say there were other women there too, being held against their will. We got them out, and the sister, Adam's expression darkened. We were too late for her. I'm sorry, Zara said softly. It was a long time ago, but I guess some lessons stick with you. He looked at her directly. No one deserves to be hunted like an animal, Miss Zara. Just Zara, she corrected him. I left Miss behind in another life. Dawn found them breaking camp early. Adam had decided to escort Zara to the nearest town, Cottonwood Springs, where she could catch the westbound stage. It was a 2-day ride, but safer than traveling alone with Blackwood still hunting her. As they rode double on Adam's horse, Zara found herself gradually relaxing in his presence. There was something steadying about him, a quiet strength that didn't demand or threaten. When they stopped to rest near midday, she caught him looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Adam shook his head. "No, I was just thinking you look better today, some color back in your cheeks." Self-consciously, Zara touched her face. She must look a fright with her hair tangled and her dress in tatters. "I doubt that very much. It's true," Adam insisted. "Though you might want to," he gestured vaguely toward her face. Confused, Zara went to the stream they'd stopped beside and peered at her reflection. A smudge of dirt streaked across her cheek. With a small laugh, she washed it away, along with the trail dust that had accumulated during their ride. When she returned, Adam was watching her, that same unreadable expression in his eyes. "Don't look at me like that," she whispered, suddenly feeling exposed. "Like what?" he asked softly. "Like you're seeing more than is there." Adam's gaze didn't waver. "I'll never look away from what's right in front of me, Zara, and what I see is a woman of extraordinary courage." His words hit her with unexpected force. It had been so long since anyone had looked at her and seen more than just her appearance, more than just an object to be used or possessed. Emotion welled in her throat, and she turned away before he could see the tears threatening to spill. "We should keep moving," she said, her voice tight with suppressed feeling. They rode on through the afternoon, the landscape gradually shifting from desert to rolling grassland dotted with scrub pine. Adam told her about his life since the war, how he'd tried ranching for a while in Nebraska, then drifted west, taking work as a scout, a ranch hand, occasionally a deputy when towns needed extra guns. "And now," Zara asked, "where were you headed when you found me?" "Nowhere in particular," he admitted. "Just following the season, though I've been thinking about settling again. Man gets tired of drifting after a while." "I wouldn't know," Zara said. "I've never had that luxury." "Where are you from originally?" Adam asked. Zara hesitated, then decided there was no harm in telling him. "Philadelphia, my father was a banker." Adam whistled low. "That's a long way from Wyoming." "Yes." She didn't elaborate, and he didn't push. They made camp that night in a sheltered hollow, and as they sat beside the fire eating a rabbit Adam had shot, Zara found herself telling him more. "My father lost everything in the panic of '73, she explained. "He took his own life rather than face the shame. My mother had died years before, and suddenly I was alone without money or protection. A distant cousin offered to take me in, but his intentions." She shuddered at the memory. "I fled west instead, thinking I could find honest work. I was naive." "You were young," Adam corrected gently. "Young and foolish. I believed Victor Blackwood when he offered me a job as a singer in his saloon." Her laugh was bitter. "There was singing involved at first, then gradually other expectations. By the time I realized what kind of establishment I joined, it was too late. I owed him money for room and board for the dresses he insisted I wear." "Debt bondage," Adam said grimly. "It's an old trick." Zara nodded. 3 years I was there, 3 years of." She couldn't finish the sentence. "But you got out," Adam reminded her. "You found your courage." "I found my desperation," Zara corrected him. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Adam stoked the fire thoughtfully. "Seems to me courage often starts as desperation. It's what you do with it that matters." They lapsed into silence, but it was a comfortable one, the kind that exists between people who have shared important truths. As Zara prepared to sleep, she found herself watching Adam as he checked his weapons and secured the horses for the night. There was something reassuring in his methodical movements, in the quiet competence with which he approached every task. For the first time in years, she felt safe. It was a dangerous feeling to indulge, she knew. Safety was an illusion, especially for a woman alone. Yet as she drifted towards sleep, she allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like to have such safety permanently. The next day brought them within sight of Cottonwood Springs by mid-afternoon. The small town appeared first as a smudge on the horizon, then gradually resolved into a collection of wooden buildings straddling the stage road. As they approached, however, Adam suddenly reined in his horse, his posture tense. "What is it?" Zara asked, alarmed by his change in demeanor. "Horses at the livery," he said, pointing to the edge of town. "One of them's a black stallion with a white blaze, distinctive animal." Zara's breath caught. "Blackwood rides a horse like that. I thought he might." Adam's expression was grim. "He must have guessed you'd head for the stage stop." Fear clutched at Zara's heart. "What do we do?" Adam considered their options. "We could circle around, try for the next town, but that's another day's ride and we'd be in open country." "Or," Zara prompted, sensing there was more, "or we face them," Adam said simply. "On our terms, not theirs." "That's madness," Zara protested. "There are at least 3 of them, and only 2 of us, and I'm not exactly handy with a gun." Adam smiled slightly. "You underestimate the advantage of surprise, and I've got a plan." He turned in the saddle to look at her directly. "But I need to know if you trust me, Zara." She looked into his steady blue eyes and realized with some surprise that she did trust him more than she'd trusted anyone in a very long time. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." "Good." He nodded toward a stand of trees about a quarter-mile from town. "We'll leave the horse there and approach on foot. I know someone in Cottonwood who might help us." The plan, as Adam explained it while they walked, was audacious but not impossible. His friend, a shopkeeper named Elijah Brown, had once been a lawman before arthritis in his hands forced him to retire his gun. Elijah still had connections in town, including with the current sheriff. "Blackwood's the kind of man who thinks his money puts him above the law," Adam explained. "But he's smart enough to keep his worst business private. If we can expose him publicly, force the law to take notice." "You think the sheriff will help?" Zara asked skeptically. "Men like Blackwood often have officials in their pockets." "Sheriff Davis is an honest man," Adam assured her. "And he's got no love for outsiders coming into his town and causing trouble." They approached Cottonwood Springs cautiously, using back alleys to reach Elijah's general store without being seen from the main street. The elderly shopkeeper greeted Adam warmly, then listened with growing concern as they explained their situation. "Victor Blackwood," Elijah mused, stroking his white beard. "The name's familiar. There've been rumors about his establishment's girls disappearing, strange doings after hours." "They're not just rumors," Zara said quietly. Elijah studied her with kind eyes. "No, I don't suppose they are." "Well, friends, you've come to the right place. Sheriff Davis has been looking for a reason to investigate Blackwood for months. With Elijah's help, they formulated a plan." While the shopkeeper went to fetch the sheriff discreetly, Adam and Zara would create a diversion to draw Blackwood and his men into the open. The stage wasn't due until morning, which gave them the advantage of the coming night. As dusk fell, Elijah returned with troubling news. "Sheriff's out of town until tomorrow tracking a horse thief, but his deputy's willing to help. Says he's been suspicious of those fellows since they rode in asking questions about a woman matching your description." Adam frowned. "Can we trust the deputy, young Thomas?" "Absolutely. Boy's as straight as they come, but he's green," Elijah warned, "and he's alone." "Then we'll have to be extra careful," Adam decided. "Where are Blackwood and his men now?" "Saloon," Elijah replied. "Been there most of the afternoon, according to Thomas. They've got a man watching the stage office, too." Their plan required adjustment, but the essence remained the same. The deputy would position himself strategically while Adam created a distraction. Zara, meanwhile, would remain hidden in Elijah's storeroom until it was safe. "I should be part of this," Zara protested. "It's my fight." "It's our fight now," Adam corrected her gently. "And the best way you can help is by staying safe. Blackwood's less likely to expect trouble if he thinks you're alone and running scared." Reluctantly, Zara agreed, though the thought of Adam facing danger on her behalf left her stomach in knots. As he prepared to leave, checking his revolver one final time, she caught his arm. "Be careful," she whispered. Adam's eyes softened. "Always am." "That's not true," she said, managing a small smile. "You rode into a firefight to help a stranger yesterday." "Best decision I ever made," he replied softly, his gaze holding hers for a long moment before he turned and slipped out the back door into the gathering darkness. The waiting was excruciating. Zara paced the small storeroom, starting at every sound from the street. Elijah had closed his shop early, citing inventory, and now sat near the front window, keeping watch while pretending to work on his ledgers. An hour passed, then another. Zara's nerves were stretched to breaking point when the first gunshot shattered the evening quiet. More shots followed, along with shouting and the sound of breaking glass. "Stay here," Elijah ordered, grabbing a shotgun from beneath the counter. "I'm going to see what's happening." Alone in the storeroom, Zara pressed her ear to the door, straining to make sense of the commotion outside. There were more shouts, then a crash so loud it seemed to shake the building. Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, she eased open the storeroom door and crept into the darkened shop. Through the front window, she could see chaos in the street. A wagon had overturned in front of the saloon, and men were scattering for cover as more shots rang out. She caught glimpses of Adam, moving with purpose from one position to another, using the overturned wagon as a shield. Then she saw Blackwood, his tall figure unmistakable even in the confusion. He was shouting orders to his men, his revolver drawn. As she watched, he took aim at a figure she recognized as the young deputy, who was pinned down behind a water trough. Without thinking, Zara grabbed a heavy brass candlestick from Elijah's counter and slipped out the shop's side door. Heart pounding, she worked her way around the back of the buildings until she was behind the saloon, where Blackwood's horse was tethered along with several others. Her plan was simple and desperate: create a diversion by setting the horses loose. It worked better than she could have imagined. The animals, already nervous from the gunfire, bolted at her approach, their panic spreading to the other horses tied nearby. Within moments, a dozen frightened horses were charging down the main street, forcing everyone to scatter. In the confusion, Zara saw her opportunity. Blackwood had been separated from his men, driven into the narrow alley beside the saloon by the stampede. Without giving herself time to reconsider, she approached from behind, the heavy candlestick raised. "Victor," she called, her voice steadier than she felt. He whirled, his face registering shock at the sight of her. "Well, well, if it isn't my runaway songbird." "This ends tonight," Zara said, taking a step closer. "I'm not your property." Blackwood's handsome face twisted into a sneer. "Everything I own has my mark on it, darlin', including you." He raised his gun. "Now drop whatever you're holding and come along quietly, or things will get very unpleasant." "They already are unpleasant," came Adam's voice from the mouth of the alley. His revolver was trained steadily on Blackwood. "Drop the gun." Blackwood's eyes narrowed, but he didn't lower his weapon. "This doesn't concern you, cowboy." "I'm making it my concern," Adam replied evenly. "Your men are either running or in custody. It's over." For a tense moment, Zara thought Blackwood might risk a shot. Then slowly, a calculating smile spread across his face. "You know what? Keep her." "Damaged goods anyway." He began to lower his gun, then suddenly swung it toward Zara. "But if I can't have her," he never finished the sentence. Adam's shot hit him in the shoulder, spinning him around. The candlestick in Zara's hand connected with Blackwood's temple a moment later, sending him crashing to the ground, unconscious. "Nice swing," Adam commented, approaching cautiously to kick Blackwood's gun away. "I had some motivation," Zara replied, her hands shaking now that the danger had passed. The deputy arrived seconds later, looking young and harried but determined. "Mr. Ashworth, are you all right? I got one of Blackwood's men, but the other escaped during the stampede." "We're fine, deputy," Adam assured him. "And you've got the ringleader here. When the sheriff returns, make sure he knows about Blackwood's activities in Silveridge. Miss Rowe can provide testimony." "Miss Rowe," the deputy repeated, looking at Zara with new interest. "Yes," she said, standing a little straighter. "Zara Rowe, and I have quite a story to tell about Mr. Blackwood's business practices. With Blackwood secured in the town jail and his remaining henchmen fled, Cottonwood Springs gradually returned to normal. Elijah insisted that Adam and Zara stay at his home for the night, an offer they gratefully accepted. After a proper meal and a chance to clean up, Zara felt almost human again. Late that evening, she found Adam on Elijah's porch, smoking a cigarette and gazing at the stars. She joined him, wrapping a borrowed shawl around her shoulders against the night chill. "I never thanked you properly," she said. "For everything." Adam shook his head. "You handled yourself pretty well back there. That was quick thinking with the horses. Perhaps. But I wouldn't have had the chance if you hadn't helped me in the first place." She studied his profile in the moonlight. "What will you do now?" He took a final drag of his cigarette before stubbing it out. "Thought I might head west for a while. Here California's nice this time of year." Zara's heart quickened. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" Adam turned to face her fully. "I'm saying the stage to San Francisco leaves tomorrow morning and I've purchased 2 tickets." He hesitated. "Unless you'd prefer to travel alone." "No," Zara said quickly. "No, I wouldn't prefer that at all." A slow smile spread across Adam's face. "Good." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, shoulders almost touching as they gazed at the quiet town. "You know," Adam said eventually, "a friend of mine has a small ranch outside Sacramento. He's been asking me to come help him run it for years. Might be a good place to settle for a while." "It sounds lovely," Zara replied softly, allowing herself to imagine such a life. "But I'll need to find work. I won't be dependent on anyone again." "There's a school in the valley that needs a teacher," Adam said. "My friend mentioned it in his last letter. You've got the education for it." Zara looked at him in surprise. "How did you know I was educated, the way you speak, the books you referenced in our conversations?" He smiled. "I notice things." "Yes," she said, returning his smile. "You do." Impulsively, she reached for his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and reassuring. "I'm still scarred, Adam," she warned quietly. "Inside, where it doesn't show. There are parts of me that may never heal completely." Adam's gaze was steady, his blue eyes reflecting the starlight. "We all carry scars, Zara. It's not about healing completely. It's about finding someone who sees your scars and loves you not despite them, but with them as part of who you are." Tears pricked at Zara's eyes. "And you think you could love someone like me?" "I think," Adam said, his voice low and certain, "that I already do." He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished, but Zara didn't pull away. Instead, she closed the distance between them, her lips meeting his in a kiss that felt like coming home after a very long journey. When they parted, Zara rested her forehead against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I'm afraid," she admitted in a whisper. "Afraid to trust this feeling." Adam's arms encircled her gently. "That's all right. We've got time." The stage to San Francisco departed Cottonwood Springs the next morning right on schedule. Zara, wearing a new dress purchased from Elijah's store, sat beside Adam, her hand clasped in his as the town receded behind them. "Having second thoughts?" Adam asked, noticing her backward glance. Zara shook her head. "No, just saying goodbye to the past." She turned to him with a smile that reached her eyes for perhaps the first time since he'd met her. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." As the stage rolled westward toward new beginnings, Zara leaned against Adam's shoulder, no longer afraid of being seen, no longer needing to hide. And Adam, true to his word, never looked away.